Hello and welcome to episode 19 of Taking Liberties for this year. Uh, Lee's back with us, so say hello, Lee,
Hi,
from the Western Australia.
corresponding from sunny Noangarup, which is about 4 hours south of Perth, so pretty much the middle of nowhere.
And just to prove how great the technology is now, he's doing it from his mobile, if you can
Indeed.
believe it. Yeah.
Thank you, Steve Jobs.
We also have Connor from WA
G'day.
and Tim from Victoria somewhere.
Yes, I'm still in the same place.
Oh, lovely. Perfect. And of course, I'm in the ACT. Just to get some quick things out of the way, I did check my other messages folder. So I do have messages from a lot of people by the looks of it. And I know that I have to get back to you, but I haven't. As a general thing, if you want to be on the show, messaging me on Facebook is not a great idea. I rarely check the other tab. The best way to get to me is to reply in the comment section. I do respond to those. Or go
Of
to
YouTube, you mean?
no, not on YouTube, on our Facebook. So yes,
Facebook.
I also get notifications when you comment on YouTube as well. So that's another way you can possibly contact me. So the Taking Liberties Facebook group, ALS, so Australian Libertarian Society, that's a good way to contact me. And finally, the YouTube comment section. I cannot stress this enough. If you try and message me, I only check the other tab maybe once or twice a year. I'm not ignoring you. I just don't check that tab. Sorry. So I cannot stress it enough. That is not the way to reach me. And that includes to the 3 or 4 people that have been pestering me constantly about the lack of women on the show. If you happen to be a woman and you're one of those people that have been pestering me, seriously, just I've got your details now down anyway. I'll get back to you when I get back to you. Moving on, today we're talking about free speech. Again, can you believe it? And it's largely to do with 3 instances that have happened in the last 2 weeks. So there's been the Sonia Kruger I'm afraid of Muslims thing, which has now caused her to be fearing her safety due to certain threats being made against her. There's been the Pauline Hanson being shouted down and protested against for appearance on Q&A on a panel about new senators, of all things. I cannot think of a place where she's more relevant. Yeah, and Milo Yiannopoulos getting banned from Twitter. Ironically, I am probably on the side of Twitter on this one after having read some of the tweets.
Please.
But we have 4 libertarians here, all with varying viewpoints. So it means you'll probably get about 8 different opinions on the topic, at least. So opening it up.
Why don't we start with
Yeah.
what we all agree with? What is the legal definition of, or in terms what government's relationship with free speech would be? That free speech is that the government should not censor you for something that you say.
Yeah.
Do we all agree on that?
Yeah.
That is. I think
So
that's the
that's-
binding
so-
factor between all libertarians. Yeah.
So then
I
the
didn't say anything, therefore he's a communist because he doesn't agree with us.
I nodded.
Get out.
Agreeingly.
it's a podcast, not a Mindcast.
Yeah.
I have been experimenting with the idea of Mindcast.
We need a witch hunt against anybody.
but
I mean, obviously, like,
yeah. So
Mindcast.
so, I mean, really, this is not a question of government. This is a question of, what makes for a civil society. To what extent should private organisations be free to do whatever they want? I think it's probably safe to say that all of us agree that private organisations are free to do what they want as well. Like,
correct.
it's not just government shouldn't
Well,
censor, but also
technically that they can, but should they?
yeah, should they? That's the
Yeah,
question.
yeah,
So, and
no,
I think even Milo, like when talking about the Twitter thing, like he says, Twitter can do whatever they want. So even he admits that like Twitter are free to ban him. It's just a question of whether they should ban him.
But that's not the point
All
that
right,
we're
big
arguing
step up here.
about.
Thanks, Cameron.
Yeah, that's it. All right, no. Okay, so the question of should Twitter, looking at the 2 tweets that came out directly before he got banned, I don't think Milo should have been banned.
Which were?
Which is the specific ones about Leslie Jones, basically saying that she's a whinger, which for all I know is a fair comment. Like,
Those.
If you look at her tweets, like her tweets are pretty vicious.
Yeah, they
sure.
are.
So
No,
people say memes on Twitter.
I-
I'm not bothered by that.
I didn't think he was banned for saying that she was a whinger. I thought he was being banned for the other stuff, where he was kind of doing a call to arms with his.
Yeah, that's what people said. He was hate brigading, essentially directing followers against it. But I don't think that was the case.
There was no evidence for that.
Yeah.
It was more that just because of he attacked her. Well, he attacked the movie, but attacked her role in the movie.
No. Okay, no. So in that case, if we're talking about that particular instance, no, then I don't agree with his ban. So there was some of the stuff that I saw, some of the posts that he'd made, which were downright vile, and I'm sitting there going like, okay, that obviously breaks community standards. And
yeah, sure. So,
yeah.
Looking back into his record, he's said a lot of pretty mean things. So I don't think it's totally unreasonable to ban him. Like, clearly he's a provocateur. He's deliberately going out of way to fight Twitter. So, like, to sort of attract the ire of Twitter, the company itself. So I'm not that fussed.
Well, even
it's the term, like, it advertises itself as Twitter as a free speech forum, and they also want to be, want to be dealt with like a public utility. So that's the whole point of social media, that anyone's free to interact.
Where do they say that they're a free speech forum? Because they have a clear, like, when you sign up, and I can bring it up now and we can screen share it if you want. They clearly have a reference to a community standard, right, which you can click. Some of that community standard is really, really vague. And you know what? I sit there and go like, this isn't like to the quality that I would expect as a community standard, but it's effectively their platform. They can do whatever they want. Now, I think Brendan O'Neill, Spiked Online? Is that Brendan?
Not him, God.
No, so Brendan O'Neill actually published a really good article on this point, and he said,
no, it wasn't.
He said, it's a private organization. It can do whatever the fuck it wants. We benefit if it is a free speech area. We benefit, they benefit, because it becomes, they obviously grow their user base because more people come to it. And also we benefit because we have a way of interacting with each other that's relatively moderator free. But that's not what they are. They are, at the end of the day, a private company that has shareholders and expectations that they have to adhere to financially. And not just financially, but their only responsibility is their shareholders. So, and their shareholders would obviously have some care as to how the company is perceived.
If there were,
something which Tim haven't seen to raise yet. I thought that the backlash was more about the hypocrisy of the moment.
Yes.
It's not necessarily that they're upholding their standards, which they should.
They'd have to shut itself down if they wanted to uphold those standards.
Sorry, Tim?
They'd have to shut themselves down if they wanted to uphold their perceived community standards.
The point is they should, under technicality, uphold their standards, but they don't for the people that they like.
Yeah.
Let's kind of be honest. It's not a libertarian free speech company. It is one which is predominantly very left wing, and is more likely to forgive people who are left wing than say something equally vile or whatever.
They don't censor the people who celebrate the killing of cops.
Well, actually, I would have said the quintessential example was Mark Dreyfus of Mother Jones, and I only know about this because I follow Milo, and he basically made a post on Facebook after he'd been banned on Twitter, and basically goes like, sure, they're banning me, but they wouldn't ban this basically misogynist dude who basically makes rape jokes, and he's the editor of Mother Jones, which is a very left-wing media organization in the United States. And he basically posted tweets from that guy. They've since been deleted, but he's a bit of I sat there and I there's a lot of times where I go like, oh, come on, guys, you can't just scream sexism about everything. But this guy, they go like, you're making rape jokes on Twitter, dude. What the fuck?
To be fair, Milo is a controversial figure. He's a provocateur. Like, he goes out of his way to stir this shit up.
Yeah.
So the fact that maybe he gets singled out in a way that others don't shouldn't be surprising. Like, he's pretty much been taunting Twitter itself for months and months and months. So the fact that he cops it when others don't, and I guess someone like Adam Baldwin as well, like somebody who's really inflammatory, like goes out of their way to be kind of trollish on Twitter, is gonna draw attention to themselves in ways that maybe others won't. So you got to be sort of see Twitter as a human organization. Like, sure, they might be sort of left wing, but like, it's one of those things. It's whack-a-mole, it's tall poppy syndrome. Like, the ones that stand up the most, they're the ones that are going to get chopped. It's the ones that go under the radar that are going to be ignored.
Let's not kid ourselves here. Who did not think someone like Milo was going to get banned? I mean,
yeah.
Milo, you go like that.
That doesn't make it okay, though. That's the thing.
See,
no, but it's kind of an expectation.
It's actually fine. It's actually fine. And you know what the solution to this is? How about all those people who are upset about Milo getting banned? A, leave Twitter, and B, start their own fucking social media organization.
There has been talk of that, but the point is, point that they're trying to make is that Twitter, it's supposed, we all think of it as this, forum for open dialogue and, interacting with people. If they're not going to be like that, then just turn themselves a private club instead of a social media platform.
They are. There's no difference. There's no difference between the two. All social media platforms are private clubs.
Yep.
But let's not forget that.
Then why do we call them social media platforms?
I think the response of saying, well, they should leave Twitter en masse, like, I think that actually is the response.
Yeah, they should.
Like, no one is forcing people who like Milo to stay around. Like, they could quit. And, that might have an impact on their user base.
Actually, it already has. It already has.
So to argue the opposite here, not they should, it's quite intentional that they are supposed to stay on Twitter. I mean, the reason why they're there is basically to trigger normies and trigger lefties. That is the point. Let's not get into it. It's not like, oh my God, I'm so offended because Milo got banned. No, it's Milo got banned. Let's trigger these lefties harder. It's not.
By the way,
it's not about a moral.
By the way, just to give you
it's called the culture war for a reason.
Yeah.
It's a culture war.
So I saw this reference from the guy's name escapes me. I'll look up the article again. But the Alexis search results for Twitter. So Twitter's user base used to be about 500 million daily users per day. It's now down to about 380 million. So that gives you an idea in the last 2 weeks. That gives you an idea exactly how much of an impact it's had.
They lost 200 million in the past
2 weeks.
For real?
Yeah, but that's
in just 2 weeks.
Yeah, but
that's pretty hardcore.
But that's the Alexis search results, right? And
okay.
Yeah,
right.
So keep in mind it's a completely different beast. I don't know how that actually translates. Like what actually their actual daily loads and stuff like that. That's only known to them. We can just tell from the search results. So the search results have dropped about 120 million per day.
Right. Okay.
Which is substantial, but I'm not like it doesn't indicate. It could indicate a number of things.
Theoretically, next week it could be back up again. It could just be a blip. Yeah. Maybe we should get onto the Sonia Kruger thing and Pauline Hanson thing, because I guess that's a bit different, and we're already probably halfway through the show.
Well, no, I'll call when we're halfway through. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, we probably should. We probably should.
Where's the segue? Can't do it without a segue.
Yeah, there is no segue to that. It's just like, hey, now that we've spoken about Twitter, let's talk about Sonia Kruger. Actually,
anybody else got something to add? Is there anything else to add? Like, there's not really much to be said. Like, the guy's been banned.
I previously said that Facebook, on a previous episode, Facebook should be a free-for-all for speech, and so should Twitter. I mean, it's a utility now. Like, electricity.
No. That's a terrible reason.
Who's forcing?
They actually want to be treated like a utility.
That doesn't mean you make it a utility.
Gun in the room. That sort of.
That doesn't mean, just because someone wants to be treated like a utility, doesn't mean you go out there and destroy their freedom of association or destroy their intellectual property.
I didn't say that. I'm saying this is how Twitter should act. I can't force them to act. Force them to act.
Right, if you're saying if they
the way
should
that
act,
I want.
I would like.
And by the way, it's not as if it's the first time that out there, basically conservative voices have been shooed off. So Wikipedia had this happen, and it spawned Conservapedia.
And who uses that?
And nobody uses that because it's a joke. Yeah, and nobody uses it because it's a joke. In the same way that nobody really uses Rational Wiki because Rational Wiki is the left-wing version of it. And I know they try to dress it up so that it's, like Wikipedia, but it's not. And we all know it is just like the left-wing version of Wikipedia. But the point,
I think few people actually want a free for all though. Like,
I want a free-for-all, but at the same time, I don't care.
well, there's subreddits all over the place that you could go if you want a free for all, and they're not nice places.
No. And the reality...
They're words.
Like,
we're talking about
I don't want to. Who needs that kind of shit in their life? Like, seriously,
you just take it with a grain of
hardcore, horrible trolls are not fun. Like, I get enough trolling in my life from Vicus. That's at the nice level that I handle. And then beyond that, I don't need it. Like the reality is, most people don't want a free for all, and if Milo getting banned is the price you pay for, a generally okay service, like I'm happy to live with that. I mean, I don't use Twitter that much, but even Facebook. I mean, okay, Facebook, like Liberty memes nearly got sort of taken off Facebook because they said something mean about Hillary, and I just this stuff is not like a big deal. And really, a free-for-all... I mean, you see more of a free-for-all in the Australian Libertarian Society Facebook group. And it's really... I just don't want that. I don't want nationalists being shitheads about Trump all the time and edgelords.
It's thin edge of the wedge argument. Could Milo be used as a thin edge of the wedge to try and drive out other non-politically correct, but less extreme elements of Twitter?
No.
This is just no.
No, and largely because of something that we call the Overton window. Yeah. So you're familiar with the concept of the Overton window, right? Well, basically, Overton window.
I'm not.
Okay, so the Overton window is basically I guess you could say, the window of all topics that people find acceptable to talk about.
The window of acceptable dialogue.
Yeah, the window of dialogue. Yeah, and if someone is clearly within that window and they get kicked off, there's a sort of group mentality to try and defend that person's free speech. It's the people on the fringes that get done by by hate speech and all sorts of laws dealing with what's the word for it? Fringe elements, I guess you could say. So like it's the same reason why Nishki, despite the fact that he's quite leftist, advocates euthanasia, but he's silenced like crazy. They actually stopped him talking about euthanasia itself. So as long as you're within that window, you will probably never see a ban.
Yeah, and can I just go back to something Tim said? Like, so it's really not the case that either you must have a free for all, and everybody who doesn't want a complete free for all wants to live in a safe space. Like, I'm totally cool with, people saying some stuff. Like, there's lots of stuff I disagree with. Like, I got lots of lefty mates who I get along with okay, and they annoy the hell out of me. But, there is we should acknowledge that there are people out there on the internet who say truly terrible things, like anti-Semites and all sorts of, like, horrible, just really horrible shit.
Just ignore them
and just,
them. Like, they're
just
pretty
because,
easy to deal with.
But, like, there's a spectrum here of, like, what I would like to see. And maybe you want a free-for-all, in which case find that subreddit, which is, I mean, there are trolling subreddits. There's plenty of places where you can find this stuff outside of Twitter. But, like, if you started silencing, like, non-trolls, like, Milo's a troll, if you started silencing non-trolls, that would be a problem. I'd have an issue with that. But this is a guy who deliberately goes out of his way to be as provocative. Maybe his ban is not justified 100%. Okay,
he never says, advocates violence or says something that is, like, truly, like, racist.
Okay, so I said I don't know if he's been...
Hang on.
He just triggers people.
Like, that's SJ...
Nobody
space guy. Like, you can't just say, well, if you don't accept a free for all, therefore you need to be wrapped in cotton wool. Like, I can handle. I'm okay with it.
You can't handle Milo.
Well, I don't really care. That's more of the point. I don't give a shit. I just honestly don't.
Why do you support his banning?
It doesn't matter in this case because it's actually. It doesn't actually matter in this case because it's actually Twitter that's making the fact that they don't want to associate with Milo. Right? It doesn't matter if you want to associate with Milo. You absolutely can associate with Milo. You can associate outside Twitter. Twitter, as a owner of this little club that they've got, have said we don't want to be associated with that.
Yeah.
Then they should stop, advertising themselves as,
They
this
don't.
global.
They really don't. I don't know where you got this idea that they are a free speech zone. They've never said it. I can't even find a single advertisement that says Twitter, the free speech zone. Where have they said this? Can you tell me, Tim? Where did you get this idea?
Well, it's supposed to be that, you talk about what's happening in the world, people from across the political
spectrum. But that
spectrum.
doesn't necessarily say that it's free speech, right? That just says this is a social media platform.
Well, then I call on Twitter then.
Free for all speech.
Anyway,
I
this
call on
topic
Twitter
is
then
we're going over
to issue
some
a statement.
Yeah.
Were we supposed to have other topics apart from
We
this?
were.
Let's move
But
on.
okay, so let's actually. So I made a picture about this, and everybody loved it for a while, and other people started getting all busy about it. I had two concentric circles, and one of those circles was people who said, calling, that Tony Abbott was a misogynist for standing in front of that ditch the witch sign. And inside that, I had a smaller circle that said people who have no problem calling Sonia Kruger a bitch.
They call her a bimbo.
A bimbo, such awful things. And I'm just sitting there going, like, hang on. You're saying standing in front of a sign was misogynistic. Half the shit you've said about this woman is beyond compare. Like bimbo, bitch.
They said she was hysterical as well.
Oh yeah,
remember that whole thing
about Van Badham? Yeah, so they called her hysterical. Like seriously, there have been some seriously misogynistic tweets about her, predominantly coming from people who were shouting misogyny against Tony Abbott, which has been a huge point of polarity for me. Sorry.
Well, of course, there's no principle involved, of the left. I thought you all knew that.
Well, to be perfectly fair, I don't think the right can really be the same. Like, I think they've got the same knee-jerk instinct as the left does.
And so do libertarians. And did I mention that it was two concentric circles? They weren't two circles that overlapped each other. So it's a subset. Yep. It's a subset of people, not all people. Sorry, Connor. We interrupted Connor.
Oh yeah, I was just going to make the as far as things go, this kind of ties back in the greater PC argument of what is politically correct and what is acceptable dialogue. But those barriers very quickly evaporate once it turns into someone who the generic amorphous left does not necessarily agree with. It's all this body image or healthy at every size. Then there's the likes of Chris Christie, the American politician, and immediately it's all the fat jokes from the left, from the whatever.
Sure, yeah.
And likewise, any woman who's in power who's not the right type of person.
Yeah, Margaret Thatcher, for example.
Margaret Thatcher, this current, what's her name in
Theresa May.
Any sort of woman on the right.
Gina Reinhardt's another good one.
Yes.
Oh my God! Yeah,
she's a fat bitch, whatever.
No, she's thin. She's a thin bitch now. Have you all seen the new photos of her?
No.
Wait, are you saying that she's a thin bitch, or that she's been called a thin bitch? Just out of curiosity.
No, she's lost heaps of weight.
It's a technical thing now. It's got to be technically correct.
I don't
just as a greater comment is we do understand this, that it's a case of it's pretty hypocritical, and this in turn provokes quite a lot of backlash from at least the whatever you call it, the red pilling or the moving towards the right, of going, holy crap, you like body image or misogyny, whenever it's stuff you like. But suddenly it's, oh my God, fat woman, stupid, whatever, the second that she's conservative in any way. Or not.
No, I've noticed this pattern. Numerous people have noticed this pattern. And it's actually quite awful, and I wish the political left would be more wary of that, especially when they do it.
Only just the comment here, only libertarians go left and right. Because we think in different dimensions.
Yeah, we think I'm sitting there and going like left and right statists. But actually, yeah. So there is an awful lot of that, and more particularly, I guess with Sonia Kruger, it's gotten to the stage where she's now starting to get death threats, and I suppose this is my where I kind of jump on Tim's bandwagon there. Where I'm just like, well, yeah, it's a little bit of a restriction on free speech when you start making death threats But like we do have laws to deal with that already. We've got so harassment and things and those kind of laws. So I really hope our police step in the case of some of these issues and help out with.
But if she's just getting like abusive tweets, then obviously that just comes with the territory.
I don't think it's abusive tweets.
Well, I'm just saying if like there's a lot of that as well.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be consistent.
Now, all right. The grander question here: is this a change from normal? Is this something that should be considered?
Not really.
No, not really. Yeah.
No.
Anytime, particularly a woman expresses conservative views, the left tends to go overboard.
No, I mean not just this current left versus right or culture stoush at the moment, not this stuff on Twitter or whatever. Is the nastiness, is the death threats? We've got the internet now; it's pretty obvious.
Well, death threats have been around forever.
Oh yeah, clearly.
Especially on the internet. So the biggest example of this was John Johnson, who was basically a guy who said video games cause violence. That guy, Jesus Christ, the gamers of the world had actually managed to get him disbarred as a vexatious litigant. And the guy's basically lost his business. I mean, seriously, this guy got hammered. The other person who's tried to do the same thing, which is Anita Sarkeesian, she's doing quite well. So if he basically said, video games cause sexism, he'd probably have an easier time.
It's funny. Like people talk about, politics now being horrible. I mean, obviously, we're talking broader than politics, but if you go back and look at like the presidential campaigns in the 1800s, and the way they talked about their opponents, it was horrendous. There's no such notion that there's this kind of genteel period of history where people have said, "Oh, good chap, aren't you just a terrible fellow?" Like it was horrible and so I think that's always been the case. That people have said really, truly mean things about each other.
Trump didn't invent the presidential insult.
No. So, I think the current kind of, the foundations of the current cultural war they've long roots. It's not a new thing, and I'm not expecting it to disappear overnight. I think just that the main difference is that social media has empowered regular people to have more of a voice, and so I mean the worst kind of news article, which I hate, is mean things people say on Twitter. So, something happens, and both conservative and liberal outlets go to Twitter, and they search for people with 5 followers who say something truly ghastly, and they have about 15 of these tweets, and they're like, oh my gosh, how terrible is this world that we live in? And it's like, so what? Who cares? You found 15 people who said something mean. Congratulations. They've always existed.
That's almost as bad as the whole concept of the listicle itself, which I think is the greater
sure. So, people have been saying mean things on Twitter, doesn't, it's basically just making visible what was always there. So people just previously thought it in their heads and maybe wrote a letter, but now they're free to broadcast it, and it's easily searchable. So, I mean, I don't think we're in some sort of new frontier or hostile speech. No, it's just that instead of just writing a nasty letter to a celebrity in the mail, you can just use your phone and it's done in a minute.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. Nothing is new.
Nothing is new. Yeah.
I think new under the sun. Yeah.
Well, perhaps in fact, something was new. Simply the stability of it over the past 20 years. Maybe we're just returning to the norm, and it was
I don't think it's been civil either.
No, but the one new thing, there is actually one new thing which you guys haven't alluded to, is that all of your social media stuff stays on there for almost forever, right?
Yep.
So the thing is, people can actually go back and find, people change their opinions all the time, but now they can actually go back and find something that you've said and be like, no, this is your position. And you can be like, well, that was my position 6 years ago.
That's why politicians in 20 years' time, it's going to be so funny when all of their stuff on Facebook and Twitter is dug up against them.
And it's more than that. As algorithms for searching advance, we are going to see some really interesting ties. It's like nothing even was known on DEF CON 5-6 years ago. They were going, look, guys, nothing on even anonymous 4chan is anonymous. It is all saved. Everything can be typed back to you.
Yeah.
What is the world going to look like in 15, 20 years' time when you can just when nothing is
Yeah,
is
and even
hidden?
stuff that's deleted,
And
like there's
everything
the
can be
Internet
leaked.
Wayback Machine, where they can go back and get cached stuff. So,
Yeah.
like there's constantly the saving of all this data, and so it's always going to be available. Which is why I somewhat moderate what I say on social media. Not moderate that much.
So keeping in mind that everything is going to be online, we have to close this episode out and put it online, right? So, so that's this week's episode, and we've discussed free speech in quite length. Again, I'm sure we'll do it again at another time, and probably a fifth time for good measure. I don't know, Lee. What do you reckon? 5, 6 times? How many times do we need to do it?
Yeah, I'd say so. Maybe 5, 6 times this year.
The culture war is going to keep on going, so there'll always be something.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
More people will get banned from Twitter, or there'll be. I think it should be called Alter, the alt-right social media network.
Oh God!
Yeah, whatever.
Please no.
We live in interesting times. Thank you very much for hosting us.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.